Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Friday, March 13th, 2026. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Pastor Jamal Bryant comes under tremendous fire on social media after Wednesday's announcement that his Target fast is ending. We will show you what he said today in a mea culpa on YouTube. Also, Minneapolis-based organizers say that the protest, the boycott will continue. We will talk to one of them, co-founder of the National Target Boycott and civil rights attorney Nekima Levy Armstrong, right here on the show. Plus, Democratic Senator Dick Durbin educates Republican Texas Senator John Cornyn on why the SAVE Act is harmful to American voters. Millions of anonymous MAGA money is backing the push to stop the redistricting in Virginia. We'll talk to the campaign manager for Virginia's 4 fair elections on the show. Plus, the troubling incident, a black woman forcibly removed from her car by a Texas police officer. Tanisha Thompson and her attorney will join us on today's show. Plus, I sat down with evangelical leader, author Jim Wallace, to talk about his new book, The False White Gospel and the Rise of White Christian Nationalism. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered. On the Black Star Network, let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's all go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Pastor Jamal Bryant today offered a mea culpa after he came under intense criticism after Wednesday's news conference at the National Press Club in D.C., where he declared the end of his more than a year-long Target fast. Many people said, how can you call for the end of a boycott when you were not the only person involved in the boycott? He took to his Jamal Bryant podcast to set the record straight. It was a more than 20-minute video he did. Here's an edited portion of his comments.
The very last thing I ever want to do is be a proponent of division or divisiveness. I want us to be together as one. This week, I failed at doing that. When it is that I called for the end of the Target fast, most in our community and culture were disappointed, angry, frustrated, and bewildered. What did it mean? Have you sold out? Have you given up? You wave the white flag? And emphatically, the answer is no. Publicly, privately, to the press and in conversation, I have heralded out loud the remarkable leadership of Attorney Nekima, Representative Nina, and Sister Soldier Tamika Mallory. I think that they are incredible leaders. And I don't want history to record that I tried to stand in the way of the leadership of warrior women. I absolutely tip my hat to them for their innovation, for their courage, for their passion, and their fire. It was my intention then, as it is now, to walk alongside them, but to never walk in front of them. Let the record reflect and show that it was Black women that started this movement. It was Black women who were at the helm. It has been my privilege to stand alongside them. I am grieved that because of the pain and the trauma and the triggers of leadership of days gone by, it was an immediate presumption that we have been bought off, or that I have been bought off. And I wanted to tell you, as God is my witness, I have not, and I would not. I am grateful to be free, to know that what it is that I do is because a charge I I have, and a God to glorify. In this year, I would be derelict and irresponsible if I did not take a moment to thank the Chamber of Black Commerce, led by their fearless director, Ron Busby. He walked alongside us and said, Jamal, while it is that you're calling people away from Target, you should be directing people to Black business. So when 300,000 people signed up at targetfast.org, they received a digital directory of Black businesses around the country because we wanted to make sure that Black businesses thrived. Not only did we do that, but I want to thank 5 partner churches. The Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church in Houston, Texas, pastored by Marcus Cosby. Reverend soon-to-be Congressman Frederick Douglass Haynes III at Friendship West Baptist Church. My comrade at arms, Dr. Charlie Dates, in Chicago at the House of Hope. Reverend Stephen Green at Allen Cathedral in New York. And of course, right here in Atlanta, the New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. Last year, we set up bullseye markets where over 100 vendors went to each location, geographically, regionally, so that Black people would circulate their dollars and understand that we have a responsibility to exercise the Kwanzaa principle of cooperative economics. I want to pause and extend my heartfelt commendation to the Black businesses who over this past year have had to pivot and had to contort because of the adverse impact of this boycott. The Black businesses that were on the shelves of Target who have seen a significant drop in sales because we were not there. We want you to know that we love you, we support you, we stand with you, and everywhere outside of Target that we can be of a benefit and an ally, I want you to know that we are committed to it. The authors who pulled your books off of the shelves because you stand in alignment and stood in agreement, I am most grateful for you making the sacrifice for the larger good. The last 72 hours have caused me to do a lot of soul searching, to figure out where it is that we are, what it is that we've done, and what missteps were made. And I wanted you to be mindful that there were no private deals. And I've been grateful to be a part of it and excited to see your stick-to-itiveness and your passion, even when it came to having to check me. I laid down on the train tracks. Y'all came and got me. And it was well-deserved, well-served, and it was well-heard. And so to be clear, as hearing from Soldier Tamika Mallory and Representative Turner and Nekima, they have every intention of moving forward. And I believe that this is the hour where Black women lead. I believe that this is the hour where Black men take their rightful place in their rightful position. I am their brother and glad to walk behind them or beside them and always available in any capacity, if necessary, to be able to be a partner. And I would ask that in this hour, that we would in fact take our cues from sisters. I'm glad to be a part of the journey and have been a part of what it is that God has called me to do in mobilizing congregations and churches and pastors all over the country. The real test of who we are is, can you follow when you are not leading? Can you follow when you are not in charge? And I am humble enough to realize that I am graced to be a part of a company of amazingly strong leaders. And I'm grateful that you have taken this boycott seriously and you believe that this is something worth fighting for. I do not in any way, shape, or form claim to be the leader. I do claim to be a servant, and I'm grateful to serve. I'm grateful to be a part, and I'm excited about building a better community for this generation and for the generation that comes behind. Let's roll up our sleeves and do the heavy lifting.
Jamal also said that Nina Turner and her group will continue to boycott Target. I confirmed that with her, and she'll be joining us on the show next week. Joining us right now is Nekima Levy Armstrong, civil rights attorney, co-founder of the National Target Boycott, joining us from Minneapolis. Nekima, glad to have you on the show. First off, there's been all sorts of, a lot of people don't even understand the timeline, all sorts of who's doing what. And the reality is, your group called for a boycott of Target. Nina Turner's group called for a boycott of Target. Both of those commenced on February 1st. And Pastor Jamal Bryant's Target fast started on March 5th, which was initially supposed to last for 40 days and then go further. So in terms of where, so talk about what has happened over the past year in terms of your organization in this boycott, and how have you been marshaling folks nationwide?
Well, first, I want to say I feel like I just watched a theatrical performance, and I need a palate cleanse after what I just heard, which I do not feel is genuine based upon my own experience in dealing with Jamal Bryant. He knew full well what he was doing when he flew to the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. to call a press conference trying to end the National Target Boycott. The amount of upheaval that he has caused is absolutely absurd for us as a community to be dealing with when we have shown unity and coming together and withholding our dollars from Target Corporation. Remember, a company that's based right here in Minneapolis, and all the harm that Target has done. So I am just so deeply disturbed at the actions of Jamal Bryant, not just this week with the foolishness of calling this boycott and calling an end to the boycott and claiming he didn't know what was happening, but from the very beginning, when I saw his attempts to co-opt the work of Black women organizers regarding this boycott, people who lived in the Twin Cities, which I specifically conveyed to him as to why this boycott was so important because of the promises that were made after the murder of George Floyd at the hands of the police. And what did he do? He gaslit me when I said, you are trying to co-opt our work. He had a publicist book him on shows like yours, CNN, The Breakfast Club, to peddle a false narrative, positioning him as the leader of this boycott.
But it wasn't.
What makes it even more offensive is the fact that women are the ones who have sustained this boycott. Black women, white women, because we control the discretionary income in our households. So you just subjected me to that. I had to respond to it. I couldn't just answer your question as if that theatrical performance didn't just happen.
But the boycott also didn't just involve him. You also had former Representative Nina Turner. You also had Tamika Mallory, co-founder of Until Freedom, and their organizations as well. And then, of course, it spread like wildfire. I mean, Target's memo that they claim was leaked drops January 24th. January 25th, Nina Turner and her organization calls for Target to put DEI back in place, or they were going to launch their boycott on February 1st. On January 29th, you posted on Instagram about your news conference and launching the boycott on February 1st. And then, of course, you had local folks who were on the ground. You had pastors and churches. And then, of course, you had the contingent here in Washington, D.C. that was protesting every week outside of Target. So it wasn't.
And we are the ones who live in the place where Target is headquartered. Let's not forget that. Because if any of these people had the power to call and sustain a boycott, then they could have done it in their cities. When you have places like Walmart, Amazon, many other companies that rolled back DEI, and all these people were silent. In our town, when things happen, guess what? We're boots on the ground right away. We don't have to be online calling for a boycott because Target is headquartered here in Minneapolis. So that is what gives us the advantage in this conversation.
But if
this is a hometown company that made a specific pledge in the aftermath of George Floyd being killed, and the people who stood up and fought for George Floyd were the ones who declared that this boycott would happen. So let's not get it twisted and bring in everybody and their grandma when you know full well that Target is headquartered here. That's why Tamika, that's why Nina, that's why Jamal had to go to Washington, D.C. to call this press conference, because they're not welcomed in Minnesota after their actions.
But Nekima, Target,
they have all been very disrespectful to people in Minnesota who have launched and sustained this boycott along with our people around the nation. Because I got to give it up to Black folks around the nation for having self-discipline, making a conscious decision that they're not going to spend their Black dollars in Target, and calling out the BS that we all witnessed this week.
But that's my whole
Jamal
point.
Bryant tried to call off this boycott.
But that's
our people.
But that's my point.
Standing firm and not believing the hype from media outlets who are pretending that they don't know what the truth actually is.
But that's my point. There are people all around the country who have participated. And so even though Target is based in Minneapolis, you've had people across the country. You've had other folks in other cities.
It's a national boycott.
Right, I understand that. That's
around the country. But don't dilute the leadership of the people on the ground in Minnesota. Because you and I had a conversation about this very thing. And I told you at the time that Jamal, Tamika, and Nina are not credible.
Okay.
That is why I would not join the national coalition that you wanted to form in the middle of all of this.
No, you and I had a conversation. We had a
text or email.
Right. No. I'm going to say what it is.
I said to you that they're not credible, and they're not.
No, I'm going to say what it is. Hold on one second. One second. I'm going to hold up 1 second. Nekima.
Stand with this man in Washington trying to call for an end to the boycott. Now they're trying to save face, talking about they're still in it. We don't need you in it. Go find something else to do with your time that doesn't involve confusing Black America at a time like this. How can you stand with this man in Washington, then turn around and say, oh, I'm still boycotting. Oh, my organization. No, you made a choice, and so did we.
So I'll say this. So again,
for any of it.
So for the purpose of the audience, when there was the meeting with Reverend Al Sharpton and the CEO of Target, the former CEO of Target, and Pastor Jamal Bryant and others in April, then there was a whole lot of back and forth. That's when you and I talked, and I texted because, one, I was asking what communication was taking place between y'all. That's when you said you did not want to work with them. That took place in April of 2025. So what I am...
Yeah, and I told you why. I said
I got you.
Work with them, and they don't have integrity, Roland. And, and as you just saw this week, that is a clear example of them not having integrity.
So I'm asking you
why would Tamika and Nina show up in Washington when this man's agenda was to call for an end to the boycott? Now they're backtracking, claiming the boycott is still on. We don't need this kind of confusion in our community. They can, if they have all this organizing prowess that they claim, then prove it and show us what else you can do. We don't need their help with the Target boycott, obviously. And if the Target boycott wasn't successful, you wouldn't have a divide and conquer strategy where they're sitting here meeting with white leadership from Target, calling for an end to the boycott and nothing to show for our community.
So the question,
it's a bunch of garbage.
So I'm gonna go
and
back.
It's not from serious people don't do things like this.
And I'm gonna go back to the original. I'm gonna go back to the original question. You're saying the boycott is continuing. You said that. So the question is, what is
we said it from day one that it was an indefinite boycott.
And I'm asking.
It wasn't 40 days.
One second. What is your plan of action for the boycott? 2, what are your demands of Target? What are your specific demands of Target? And 3, have those been articulated to the Target leadership?
First of all, when we sent out our press release on January 28th of 2025 announcing the Target boycott, we listed our demands at that time. And during our press conference that happened on January 30th. And as a matter of fact, 2 of our demands wound up on the targetfast.org website because of the trickery of these people involved. So that's number
hold
one.
on,
Number two,
one second. No,
we've
Nekima, 1 second. For the people who don't know your press release, what are those two demands?
Well, the first one is that the most obvious one is that Target reverses its decision to roll back diversity, equity, and inclusion. That should be obvious. The second demand is for Target to account for the $2.1 billion that it pledged in 2021 in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd. Our third demand has to do with Target's involvement in increasing the incarceration rate in Hennepin County, Minnesota, leading to a young man by the name of Mahdi Ali, a young immigrant who, at 16 years old, wound up in prison for 2 murders he did not commit. Target had contributed funds to the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, and they said, we don't just want arrests, we want convictions. And then they sent 2 forensic analysts to testify at his trial, leading to a wrongful conviction of a young man of color. This man is now over 30 years old and still in prison for murders he did not commit. Target needs to make amends for all of these things. So when I'm on your show and I'm talking seriously about these issues, it's hard for me to ignore people who are unserious when it comes to accountability, when it comes to truthfulness, when it comes to holding the line for Black America. That is what we have experienced. So even for me to have to sit there and listen to this man go on and on and on with the theatrical performance before I came on you to talk about something real is offensive. And I'm just tired of it. We have bigger fish to fry in the Black community. We're dealing with the attacks by the Trump administration. We're dealing with ICE busting down people's doors. We're dealing with them trying to erase Black history. We're dealing with hundreds of thousands of Black women who have been unemployed since Trump took over again. And now here we are in the midst of all of this, dealing with some foolishness that didn't even have to happen. So no, we don't need Tamika or Nina involved in any further organizing around the Target boycott. They helped to make this mess. They need to take that energy and go with Jamal and do something else.
So the question is, who is allowed to participate? So if there are other organizations,
everybody else.
No, 1 second. No, 1 second. Hold on, Nekima, 1 second. If there are organizations, if they're out there who want to participate, what is the process to bring them into the fold?
They're more than welcome to participate. The process is to continue getting the word out that the boycott is still going on.
Here's my point.
Individual communities. Well, I am an organizer, Roland. You are a media person. Okay, let's understand.
I know that. And so what I'm asking is,
how many protests, demonstrations, everything else that I have successfully organized. So as an organizer, understanding decentralized leadership, it's asking people, number one, continue to spread the word in your networks and in your community that the Target boycott is still going on. And as a matter of fact, to double down. Number two, if people want to organize actions within their community, whether it's a demonstration outside of Target, in Target, letter writing, please do that. People can know how to participate, and they have been. My problem comes in when you have people positioning themselves as leaders who have a completely different agenda to co-opt, to cause confusion, to call off a successful boycott. Why are you involved? You made your bed at the Washington, D.C. Press Club.
So the reason I asked the question,
the boycott was over.
Nekima,
why are you continuing to be involved? That's my question.
The reason I asked the question, because you just said decentralized. And so if there is somebody else out there, another organization who decides to do it, and then all of a sudden, let's say they start taking meetings with Target. So what I'm asking is, if you're saying, hey, we're leading this boycott, we're Minneapolis based, how do you want to communicate and convey when it comes to strategy, when it comes to doing all of that with other folks who are getting involved, as opposed to them doing whatever it is they want to do? Because if that's the case, you may find yourself in the exact same situation we're in right now. So how
we won't find ourselves in the exact same situation, because the vast majority of the people helping to lead in their cities actually have integrity and are operating with integrity. Did you see any of them calling a press conference in Washington, D.C. trying to end the boycott? No, what you see is collective action. People using social media to get the word out, people holding demonstrations like they've been doing in Washington, D.C. in front of Target to get the word out, people working through their networks, people sending letters to Target, writing op-eds, withholding their spending, finding other places to shop. Even when Reverend Al Sharpton was taking people into Costco as a part of the strategy. That is not the same as what Jamal Bryant, Nina Turner, and Tamika Mallory have done. So please don't try to conflate the two.
No, I'm not. No, actually, I'm not conflating. I'm not conflating
I'm not
the two.
talking about organic organizing,
Right.
which is what people are doing. And some people have taken meetings with Target. And that's fine and dandy if that's what they want to do. It doesn't mean that there's going to be an end to the boycott simply because someone takes a meeting with Target. We were offered a meeting with Target, and you know what we said? We will only meet with Target if the starting point for the conversation is them reversing their decision to roll back diversity, equity, and inclusion. If that is not on their agenda, you're not going to waste our time. We're not playing these games with these people. We are winning as a community. So why would we retreat and suddenly end a boycott that is actually successful and powerful and is mobilizing our community?
Have you?
So I'm encouraging people to get involved with the boycott, but to have good intentions, to operate with integrity, and to be truthful.
Have y'all communicated? Well, one second, Nekima, and I've got 2 more minutes because I've got 3 guests waiting. The question.
Well, you spent 10 minutes letting us watch the theatrical performance.
First of all, Nekima, first of all, this is my show. And I covered that today. No, Nekima, one second, Nekima. I played that because it actually happened today. And so that's why I played it. It still is news. Whether you disagree with it or not.
Doesn't matter.
Well, first of all, whether you disagree or not, it's news. So I was going to play it. So it got played.
It was a theatrical performance.
Okay, well, that's your interpretation. I'm still going to play it for the benefit of the audience. The question is this here.
Then you could have played it at a different time.
No.
Because I don't want to waste my time listening to that garbage.
Well, guess what? I played it when I played it because it led into the conversation. Now, Target has a new CEO. Target has I made the decision. Well, guess what? I did it. I played it. Nekima, I already played it. Here's my question.
It was a waste of time.
Well, no, it's a waste of time arguing back and forth when I can ask the next question. And the next question is this here. As a new CEO of Target, has your organization communicated with him as it relates to a meeting to address your specific demands?
Like I said, Target reached out. And I said specifically, if
the new CEO or the previous CEO?
The new CEO.
Got it. And the new CEO.
And I put it on the table. If that's not part of the conversation, no, we're not wasting our time meeting with you. Why would we? If you're not going to listen to what Black America, what women, what the LGBTQ community is asking you for, which is basic dignity and respect and not to capitulate to the Trump administration, then what do we have to talk about?
Okay. Well, we'll certainly see what happens if they actually meet and keep us abreast what the next steps are in this boycott. Nekima Levy Armstrong, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Going to bring in the panel right now. Michael Imhotep, host of African History Network show out of Detroit. Candace Kelly, legal analyst, host of Takeaway with Candace Kelly, South Orange, New Jersey. Cody D, independent journalist out of Birmingham. Glad to have all 3 of you here. When we talk about boycotts, Candace, we've actually seen since Montgomery bus boycott. I mean, I remember what took place with Denny's in the 90s, Texaco as well. They've also been regional, local. I remember what took place in Cincinnati with the Where's Our Money campaign. I was talking to Bishop William Barber about a number of those as well. And the reality is you have to have sustained action in order to maintain a boycott. But a boycott also is about achieving a list of demands. And so your assessment, Candace, what are your thoughts on what is next? Because clearly there are a lot of folks on social who say, hey, I'm not going back to Target. I'm not shopping there. But we also see, based upon Target's response, that they're not going to, one of the requests was, you know, a public apology. They've made it clear that's not going to happen as well. So just your assessment.
You know, there's just so much to say after listening to her and listening to to Reverend Jamal Bryant. Let me start off by saying this. It is confusing. It is confusing if you are trying to understand what's going on with the boycott. But I think that so many people, especially from comments that I've been reading, especially even in terms of my day-to-day, there's a Target, I could walk to it from where I am. We're trained not to go to it anyway. I think people are on the same bandwagon as Nekima. But with the same point, hearing somebody call off a boycott is confusing. And I think that there are going to be a lot more questions, a lot more conversations that have to be had about how a presser happened when you vet speeches, you have conversations, you come to the table and decide, this is what we're going to do as a collective. How did that happen seemingly in a vacuum, and why is there so much confusion?
Well,
there's going to be a lot more talk about.
Well, here's what happened. And again, we streamed the whole news conference, so anybody can actually see this, Michael. So what I'm saying, no one can say, well, you made it up. What Jamal Bryant said at the news conference was that the Target fast portion of the boycott was ending. That's what was launched on March 5th. Was 40 days during Lenten season, but it was extended after Easter Sunday, so that's what he said there. Now, how media framed it or extrapolated that is that, oh, the boycott is ending, as opposed to this portion of the boycott. That's what was stated. Now, people can disagree with that. People can say, oh, he meant one thing and another, but I'm just simply repeating exactly what was said at the news conference.
You're absolutely correct, Roland. And I actually watched the news.
The sound is really off in terms of what I'm getting. Just FYI.
Candace, hold on. Hold on. Michael, go ahead. Guys, y'all.
You're absolutely correct,
Michael,
Roland.
go ahead.
And you're absolutely correct. And I actually watched your broadcast of the press conference. So my interpretation of this is different than a lot of people on social media. Number one, Pastor Jamal Bryant, and I'm not taking sides, I'm just stating facts. He made it clear. He was talking about the Target fast was ending. The Target fast that he initiated, as you stated, March 5th. It was originally supposed to last 40 days. It was extended, lasted 400 days. I post a lot about this on my social media platforms, and I read a lot of comments from different social media platforms. The average African-American commenting really does not know the difference between the Target fast and the nationwide Target boycott. And on top of that, a lot of white media coverage didn't really make a distinction between the two of them. And one of them is the Star Tribune. Their headline, National Leader Calls for End to Target Boycott After Diversity Pullback. And when you see headline after headline saying that he was ending the Target boycott, no, he was ending the Target fast that he started, but he also laid out 3 of 4 demands that were made, that were met in the $2 billion investment into Black-owned businesses. He said 97% of that had been completed and the rest will be completed by Easter. So most of the conversation taking place outside of your platform, most of the conversation didn't even include what the demands were, what was being met, things of this nature. He talked about the HBCUs, et cetera. So there's a lot of confusion and around this, but this is why the Black Star Network is so important. I encourage people to watch the press conference that Roland streamed, then comment.
Cody D, here's a reality of what took place. First of all, they were merged together, and that is the reality. I think so many people didn't what Pastor Jamal Bryant was doing with the fast. They were like, "Oh, that's also the boycott," and so that's how it was perceived. Even in his video today, he said they were conflated, and that should not have been done. So that was one of the things that actually happened as well. I'll say this here: I do believe that part of the issue. It was not Jamal's job, and he should not have done this. He should not have essentially laid out what Target met these 3 or 4 demands, because essentially the problem here is that Target is not communicated. From day one, I can tell you, when that letter went out on this January 24th, I reached out to Target. Did not hear back. Called corporate headquarters. Target has done an abysmal job of communicating with the black community, even communicating with their own people who they actually fund. And so they have been silent. Now, I've said this on the show. There are so many factors here that have to be dealt with. And that is, there's a class action lawsuit that Target is facing from its shareholders, suing them, saying that they did not fully lay out the risk of DEI blowback. You got Donald Trump targeting these companies as well. And so you have all these things going on. The biggest problem, Cody, with Wednesday was that there was not clarity from all folks as to what the next steps are. And so it was positioned as a community update on the boycott. And all of a sudden, Jamal says the fast is ending, and then Tamika and Nina are saying, hey, we're not going to continue shopping with Target. So in many ways, it was mixed messaging. This is where all of the folks who were involved should have been very clear, and everyone should have known what each person was going to say on there, and then go over to say, hey, how is this going to be received? Because what you say is one thing, but how something is received is another.
Right, absolutely. So, if I'm being completely honest, if I'm taking Nekima's accounts of everything, first of all, I did not know Nekima was the person on the ground in Minneapolis doing this work leading the boycott. I did not find that out until reporter Georgia Fort was on the ground to say, hey, this whole announcement is confusing. And it gave me just a little bit of clarity as to what was going on and why there was so much backlash on social media. And then even hearing the conversation today between you, Roland, and Nekima, she even answered some of the questions that I've had over the last year, which is, okay, why are we targeting, why Target and not Amazon and not Walmart when they also rolled back their DEI programs? But let me just finish.
Actually, go ahead. I'm gonna answer that part. I'm gonna answer that part. So go ahead.
Well, no, I wasn't finished.
No, that's what I'm saying. But go ahead.
I now understand that the original or the origination of the boycott was because Nekima was on the ground in Minneapolis doing the work. And so it makes sense that they're I don't know anybody in Arizona who's doing the work of boycotting Walmart. I don't know anybody who is in Seattle on the ground doing the boycotting for Amazon. And so now my question goes back to Jamal, which is, okay, why did you choose to get involved? Because my questions also would be, did you choose to co-opt this? What was the point? Because you're now saying that you want Black women to finish and continue to lead this ongoing boycott. And if I recall correctly, he said that he had been working with Nekima this whole time. She's discrediting that claim. I'm trying to understand the origin in which Jamal decided to get to participate in this boycott. He has the louder voice. He has the louder platform. And a lot of us did not know who Nekima was until this week.
He actually said it today when he laid out in terms of how he got involved with the Target fast. And this is the thing that when I look at timelines, okay, I remember all this. We were covering it in real time. The Target letter dropped on January 24th. On January 25th, Nina Turner's group, Strike for All, posted this on Instagram. They posted boycott Target starting February 1st. This is what they posted, okay? Strike for All, and you see the date right there, January 25th, 2025. Now, when the next thing that I saw was this. This was on, Nekima posted this on January 25th, 2025. Friends, I'm sure that by now you've heard the news about Target rolling back its commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, including Black-owned businesses. I'm disappointed, yes. It says, but the question is, what should we do about it? Please respond with any personal action you plan to take and thoughts on what we should do collectively to address this slap in the face. Thanks, okay? That also was January 25th. Then on January 29th, was posted on Nekima's page, National Target Boycott, Thursday, January 30th. It's going to be a news conference. They're launching it February 1st. That was the timeline. okay? Jamal was, in February, was putting together the faith part, which he described earlier today, that launched March 5th. That was what was going on. Now, when you ask the question about why Target and not all of these other entities, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm gonna use Operation Breadbasket. There's been no more effective, sustained boycott campaign than Breadbasket. This idea originated with Reverend Leon Sullivan in Philadelphia, where he was targeting businesses in Philadelphia. He tells Dr. King this. King said, come present to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1966. King says, we're going to adopt that. We're going to rename it Breadbasket. He puts Reverend Jackson over it. And so what they did was, and again, they said, in order for you to have success of a boycott, you can't do 3, 4, 5 at one time. You got to do one. You do one, you target a particular group, and then all of a sudden, you build off of that, and then it becomes, okay, who's next? And so, and I remember vividly, people were saying, well, Walmart, it should be Amazon, it should be this company, this company. In fact, a lot of people forget, in June, Jamal said, we done with Target and we going to Dollar General, but guess what? There was no groundswell to Dollar General. Why? Because, again, following the 6 points of Operation Breadbasket, there was no education effort as to why. And so that's why, so I totally understand when there's a boycott, why you target one entity, because the whole goal is to be able to say, how do we achieve success and now go to the next target? So I totally get that. The thing here, and listen, let me be real clear. I had no issue if Nekima's group wanted to come on this show. They never reached out. See, again, there were many people who were involved. We covered this story in significant ways. Guys, what's going on with it? Come on, please fix this. What's going on with the video? We covered this in many different ways. So what happened on Wednesday, and we're here on Friday, and this is the mess that is created, because this is why, if you do not communicate beforehand, if you do not see through all the pieces, if you don't say, how is this going to be received? What's going to be the reaction? How should we do this? Then this is what you get. And now the problem is, now you got fracture. Now you got, and let's be real clear. I need to help people understand. Folks in the civil rights movement did not get along. Snick's nickname for Dr. King was, here come the Lord, here come the Lord. Okay, so you've always had people who don't get along. The issue is, can leaders set aside personal animosity for the purpose of the collective? But here's the other piece. Leaders also have to lead with integrity, because you got to be able to have trust among leaders. And so the real question is, okay, the public is speaking, we're moving forward. The question now is, what's next? So we can keep saying what happened Wednesday or what happened last year, or I led this and I led this and I was first. We're beyond that. The question right now is, how are leaders going to marshal forces to maintain a boycott, to continue to provide economic pain to Target, when the goal is to get them to address the points of the boycott? That's what folks actually now have to confront. All right, folks, let's move on to our next story. Are we dealing with Virginia, or are we going to do a Dallas story? All right, so you might have seen this video on social media of a black woman with her child who was given a ticket by a cop led to an arrest. Roll a video.
Okay, Tanisha, you'll be receiving a citation today for the speed. I just need to get a signature from you. This is not an admission of guilt.
I'm not signing that.
You're not going to sign it?
No, I'm not.
That's fine. I'll just put refuse.
That's fine.
I need to get the VIN number on the car real quick. I'll enter that. I'll print you your copy and send you on your way.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your registration sticker on the car.
I just bought this car, so I'm waiting for it. Any more questions?
I'm just asking.
Okay, and I told you.
Do you have your bill of sale with the car then?
No, I don't.
Okay, you should probably carry that with you if you're not going to display your registration sticker.
Well, I wasn't told that, so you might need to get updated on the laws.
Give me just a second. All right, here's your copy of the citation. As far as the bills, you don't want to take it?
No.
Well, it's here to take it because it's your citation.
I don't want it.
That's your citation. That's littering. Step out of the car.
No, don't do
ma'am.
that. Don't get the fuck off my
Step
car.
out.
I'm not stepping
Step
out.
out.
Look.
Mom, chill out. Mom,
I'm not doing.
please chill
Call.
out.
Yes, call.
out.
I'm not touching.
Mom, please chill out. Mom, Mom, please chill out. Mom,
Don't
please chill
touch
out.
me.
Step
Don't.
it out.
I'm
Mom,
not
please
stepping
chill
out of
out.
shit. Call
Step
your
out.
motherfucking supervisor.
I am the supervisor.
You're not the supervisor.
Yes, I
Call
am.
your
I am the
supervisor.
corporal.
A
Step out.
supervisor. I'm not
Step
stepping
out.
out of
Mom,
nothing.
chill out.
Get
Mom,
your
chill out.
fucking hand
Please,
off
please
me.
chill out. Mom,
Get
please
your
chill
hand
out.
off me. Get your hand off me. I will step
Step
out when the supervisor.
I
I'm
am
not
the
stepping out of
supervisor.
nothing.
Ma'am.
Get your hand off
Tanisha,
me. Get your hand
I'm not
off
letting
me.
go.
Like you littered. You
I
dropped
am
the
not.
ticket, not me.
I put the ticket in
No,
the car
you dropped the
because
ticket,
that's your
not
copy.
me. You dropped the ticket, not me. Get your hands off me.
Take the ticket
You're
and
touching
go.
me. Give me the
All right.
ticket.
Yes,
You're
do
touching
that.
me forcibly. You're holding me too
Because-
tight, and you're being out of line.
Get the ticket.
Y'all see
Just
this,
get the
right?
ticket. Sir, I'm sorry.
Stop.
Can she just get the ticket?
No, you stop.
Stop.
Why are you holding my arm like
Because
this?
I gave you the
Why?
ticket,
No, you
then
did
you
not.
proceeded
You
to throw
dropped
it.
the ticket,
I
not
put it
me.
in your car,
I told you I did
and
not
you
want it.
proceeded to
You
throw it out of
dropped
the
it.
car.
You dropped it. You're doing too much. I'm not afraid of you. Get your
That's
hand
fine,
off
but
of
I've
me.
asked you
You're
to step
holding
out of
me
the car.
forcibly for no reason.
Because you need to step
Get
out
your
of the
fucking
car.
hands off
Step
me.
out of the car.
No, what am I stepping out of the
Mom,
Is there
car for?
anything I can do to get you to comply?
Look, Mom, he just said take the
To
ticket and we can
comply.
leave.
You
He
threw
said
the
take
car
the
out
ticket
of
and we
the
can
No,
leave.
I did not. You did that.
He said
you
take
threw
the
the
ticket and
ticket
we
at
can
me.
I
leave.
gave it to you so
You
you
threw
could
the
leave,
ticket at
and then
me.
you grabbed it
Okay,
and threw it out.
give me the
It's on
ticket.
your phone video.
Give me the
It's-
ticket.
No,
Give me the
we're
ticket.
past that.
Okay.
You're under arrest. Step
For
out of the
what?
car, littering.
Okay.
Step out of the car.
No, I'm not.
You're under arrest.
No, when the
Sir,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
if he just
when your
grabs it, can we
colonel
please
gets
leave?
here,
No, we are
then I will
beyond that.
step out.
Step
I'm not
out.
getting out of the car. I'm with
Step
my
out.
I'm with my
Gosh,
child,
bro.
and I'm not
I
doing
understand
that.
you're with
Call
your
your
child.
father right now.
Step out of the car.
I'm not.
Step out
I'm
of
not.
the
I'll
car.
step out when another officer gets here. I'm not
Step
stepping out.
out.
I don't trust you. You're holding me too strong, and I don't
Because
trust you.
I don't
You
trust
don't
you
have to
not
hold
to.
me like I'm not going anywhere. Where am I going
I
to
will
go?
stop holding
I'm not
you if
going
you
to go
step out of the
anywhere.
car.
I'm not stepping out of the car.
You need to
Call
step
your
out of the
colonel, and
car.
I will get out of the car.
This is
You're
resisting
holding
arrest.
me. I'm not resisting arrest. I'm not.
you're not
What am I
answering
under
my
arrest
order.
for? What am I
Littering.
under arrest for? I didn't litter. You
threw
did
the
that.
ticket
No,
out the
I did not.
window.
You did that. You did that. It's all on camera.
You're
So
correct.
when your colonel gets here, then I will step out. I have my child with me.
I am
I'm
the
not getting
corporal.
out of. You have a supervisor, okay?
I am the
So when your
supervisor on duty.
supervisor gets here, then
Video. That's Tanisha Thompson. She was with her 15-year-old son, Syer Timmons, as they were driving through Hurst, Texas. She joins us right now, along with her attorney, Lee Merritt. Glad to have both of you on the show. First and foremost, Tanisha, in the video, you say that the police officer dropped the ticket outside of the car. But the video has it where he tosses it inside and you toss it outside. And we hear your son saying, "Mom, chill out," and back and forth. Take us through that particular point there, because the video disputes that. So just take us through what really was going on there.
Roland, I have to slow
I was
her down.
saying
I've
that he
asked her
threw-
not to answer factual questions because we're in the middle of a federal civil rights investigation.
Okay.
That will likely lead to litigation. So she can talk about the emotional impact and how she felt about the encounter. But I'll be happy to answer any factual questions.
Okay, if you can answer that, because again, listen to the video. She says that he threw it outside, but in the video she tosses outside. Walk us through that. Explain that.
Sure. I want to clarify. I hear you saying that she said he tossed the ticket outside. What she said was you dropped it. He dropped it on her lap.
Got it.
Yeah. And so I think what she said was consistent with what the video, what occurred in the video. Now, what occurred in the video, whether the officer should have given her the ticket or placed it on the ground, it's a receipt of a citation that's already been electronically issued. He had her ID. She complied with the law, which was to turn over the ID and receive the citation. If he was upset that she responded to him dropping the ticket on her lap by tossing it out of the window, and the officer made a decision to give her an additional citation for littering, then he could have done that with the ID information he already had in his possession. His decision to make a criminal arrest, to physically remove her from the car in front of her 15-year-old child, is not only abuse of discretion, but it's an unreasonable seizure under the Fourth Amendment. And that's what we're investigating, whether this is the pattern and practice for the city of Hearst in general.
Tanisha, what was it about this incident that made you so upset?
Well, I don't think y'all have the full video because he had already approached me and was telling me that I was doing, well, I'll let Mr. Mayor answer that, but he had already approached me before the start of this video saying whatever he was saying. And that's not what happened. And that's the reason why I told him I was not signing the ticket because of what he said. And I mean, I really don't know what to say besides the fact that when I didn't have a problem stepping out the car, but I didn't want to step out the car without a supervisor there because the way he was holding me, I didn't like the way he was holding me. And I kept telling him, you know, you're holding me too tight. And it was unnecessary. And I just felt like, I don't know, there's so many ways that I can look at it now, but at the time and that moment, I really didn't feel safe and I didn't want to get out of my car.
We hear your son say, "Mom, chill out, chill out." And obviously, he was concerned that this was going to escalate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all share her son's concerns. And the concern is that you're being confrontational with the deadliest police culture in the modern world. And her son has seen in the DFW area men, women, and children killed by law enforcement. Sometimes those people are agitated, the way it appears Ms. Thompson was. Sometimes those people are completely compliant. The reason that you see a national backlash, the reason I honestly think Ms. Thompson, as a result of this encounter, did everything right. She said, I think the officer went beyond what was reasonable, and she filed an internal affairs complaint and allowed the department an opportunity to review its own actions. So it wasn't sort of up to her son to say, hey, Mom, you're going too far, or hey, help us survive this situation. Because often when people have encounters with law enforcement, they're not thinking in their most rational. It's an emergency event. And so what we expect, what we have been focusing for officers all across the DFW, particularly in Tarrant County, where this kind of encounter is common and this racial dynamic is common, that officers should be trained in de-escalation, where they can avoid physical force and unnecessary arrest. They've been trained to do that, and this officer is not following the training.
And so you filed a federal suit already?
No. So Ms. Thompson filed her internal affairs complaint just last week and hired our firm earlier this week. We were able to obtain the video, and now we're in the process of investigating not only this claim, but other instances in Hearst. We'll be attending the local city council meeting, the upcoming city council meeting on Tuesday, to see if there are additional people that would add to the Monell claim that we're preparing against the city of Hearst, and who would add to who would call on the city council member and the mayor to address the policies and procedures within the region.
And last for Tanisha, how is your son after all of this?
He's a little shaken, but he's fine.
Okay. We'll certainly keep us abreast of what happens next in this case. Tanisha, we appreciate it. Lee, Mayor, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. Going to panel. Let's start with Candace, your assessment.
Well, listen, there comes a point where the officer, like Lee Merritt said, has the opportunity to de-escalate. That's their job, that's their role, that's the goal. And that did not happen. And we know, even if your ticket flies off your car, you're still getting it in the mail. So the fact that he wanted her to get it and to take it and to sign it, that actually didn't matter. So by a lot of accounts, in terms of the history, in terms of what police are supposed to do, and the way that plane tickets are handled for speeding, this was ridiculous. This was over the top. She's got a very strong case. Granted, she got a little rah-rah, where a lot of people would say, why would you do that with your son in the car? But the bottom line was that his role was the superior role, in order to take things down, and he did not do that. And that was a violation of her rights.
Michael?
Yeah, I agree with Candace. He really should have de-escalated it. Now, this could have gotten even worse. So we're all thankful that it did not get worse. But he should have de-escalated it, and I think it was really petty to try to arrest her for littering as well. I think that was really unnecessary. She's going to get the citation in the mail anyway. Possibly his pride was hurt somewhat, but I think he handled it incorrectly, and you really should have de-escalated. So where's the training here that he has? If he's a supervisor, where's his training? And how are the people that report to him being trained?
Cody D?
Yeah, I agree with my fellow panelists, but I do have to push back on one thing. I agree that the officer overused his authority and also was unnecessarily aggressive with her. I mean, you could tell by how quickly he responded that he was looking for a moment to try to be physical with her or try to reprimand her in some kind of way. And I think that he responded in that way because of the way that she was acting. I'm not a fan of respectability politics, but I think that we, as Black people, we know and we go out into this world knowing the dynamics of what it means to be Black every day and what it means in the context of dealing with law enforcement. And so a lot of times that means, okay, I'm not going to do anything extra to agitate the officer. I'm just going to say, yes, I'm going to give basic answers. I'm going to make sure that, I do what's necessary to make sure that this situation does not escalate. And I'm not, by no means am I saying that this is her fault, but I do think that we have to remember who we're dealing with when we go out into this world, unfortunately, because we know the history of how law enforcement is with Black people.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, we're going to talk about MAGA spending millions in Virginia because they do not want to see Democrats have a 10-1 congressional edge. We'll talk to campaign manager of Virginia for Fair Elections. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's also for credit cards. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bree Baker, and my good sis, Jameer Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Hey, I'm Malcolm Lee, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Millions of anonymous MAGA money being poured into Virginia to support the No campaign opposing the April 21st referendum that will deal with changing the congressional maps. That's right, it's fueling a lot of misinformation aimed at confusing voters across the Commonwealth. April 21st, again, voters will decide on a proposed constitutional amendment that would allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore, as they say, restore fairness in upcoming elections. This is in response to Republicans gerrymandering seats in Texas, in Missouri, Kansas, and other places as well. According to the Virginians for Fair Elections, $2.5 million in undisclosed funds appeared this week backing the No campaign, which has since announced its first paid media buy. Earlier this week, we told you about these ridiculous mailers being sent out by a Black Republican group, Democracy and Justice PAC, chaired by former Virginia Delegate A.C. Cordoza. The mailer compares the referendum to Jim Crow-era voter suppression. It includes images of Klansmen and civil rights marches and urges voters to vote no on the measure, which would allow the state to redraw its congressional districts, which would actually, because more Democrats are on the Democratic side, would actually empower African Americans more than it would take power away. Karen Dongo is a campaign manager at Virginia for Fair Elections. Glad to have you here. Karen, early voting has already started. And listen, Republicans are obviously ginned up by this. And so this money comes in. It's going to seriously help your campaign. What is your strategy to get Democrats? Listen, you got a Democratic governor, you got a Democratic House, you got a Democratic Senate, you had a Democratic lieutenant governor, attorney general, all elected. You swept these races. But how do you get Democrats to realize that going for a 10-to-1 map can actually help the party in the state, but also nationally?
So first, thank you for having me. But what we're doing is ensuring that Virginians understand the context here. And the context, just as you said, is that MAGA Republicans are trying to rig the election to concentrate power in their own hands in order to continue bad policies, the policies that have led to higher healthcare costs, higher energy costs, higher grocery bill costs. So what we're telling Virginians is we have the opportunity to say enough, to say we are not going to accept any more of this rigging the elections to concentrate power for another 2 years, another 4 years in the hand of MAGA Republicans. And in Virginia, as you say, early vote is going on right now. We are encouraging voters to vote yes on this redistricting referendum that takes power away from MAGA Republicans and put it back in the hand of voters. It is really important that we show up and vote yes, because that will allow us to have the elected officials in Congress that are actually going to put our needs, our policy prerogatives ahead of selfish needs that we see going on right now in our country. One of the things that we say.
Go ahead.
One of the things that we're telling Virginians is that this is a temporary measure that is addressing the emergency going on in our nation right now. You asked me how we're doing it. One, we're on the ground door knocking. We have been up on air with ads for several weeks now, including an ad this week from President Barack Obama. We are doing mailers. We are doing town halls and community conversations, and we're deploying our validators, trusted voices in Virginia, to talk about this measure and to clearly state why it's important for us to vote yes here.
How do you respond to your opponents who say, but you're trying to rig it as well with a 10-to-1 map? And so, and there are Democrats who say, hey, man, wait, what are we doing here? So what are you saying to them who are listening to that message and they're saying, that's not fair? How do you respond to it?
It's not, Democrats, what we're doing here is the maps are more competitive. I think it's a misstatement to say that we're creating maps for Dems only to win. I mean, this is Virginia. For Democrats to win in Virginia, you have to do the work, and not just the work. You have to have better policies and run good candidates. There's no slam dunk effort here in Virginia. The maps now are more competitive. And yes, as you have said last year, and for some years now, Democrats have been able, when running good candidates, when running on better policies, policies that Virginians care about, we're able to make a lot of inroads in Virginia. But the work continues. So it's really a misstatement to say that this is a 10-1 map for Democrats. That's not the case at all. What is the case is that the map is competitive. And now, after the referendum on April 21st, if we vote yes, candidates and incumbents still have to go out and do the work and state to Virginians, make their case to Virginians, the policies. Now, Virginia leadership, the Democratic leadership in Virginia, has been able to deliver for Virginians. That's why they're trusted voices in this measure right now. And that is why we're seeing voters really respond to the yes campaign here.
Questions from my panel. Cody, do you first.
Yeah, so what is some of the messaging that you all are working on and making sure that it's being equitably shared throughout all communities?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are talking about is the importance of leveling the playing field. We can't show up to a knife fight with a stick. So allowing Texas, allowing other states rig the elections to keep their policies. Let's take this back a little bit. The reason why House Republicans have the majority right now is because North Carolina did a mid-decade redistricting. What has that led to? That's led to higher prices in healthcare that adversely affect communities of color. That's led to higher costs of living that has led to difficulty in access or paying for housing. So what we're really making voters understand here is the policy effect of not being able to vote for your member of Congress and making sure that they have a say in the policies that affect you. That is why we are talking about this in the context of it happening in the nation. It's not just about Virginia. Virginia has an opportunity, and I haven't even touched the part about just, really the pillars of our democracy that are being affected here, and that Virginia has an opportunity to save our democracy. But really, Virginians have an opportunity to really affect the day-to-day living of what voters are faced with what's going on right now.
Michael?
When we talk about the mailer that was sent out that used Jim Crow era language and referenced the Ku Klux Klan, things like this, the question I had was, how are African Americans that you're talking to, how did they receive that? How did they interpret that? And where are you pointing them to, or what type of information do you give them to give them the truth and combat those lies?
Yeah, it was very offensive. People received it like I received it. It was very offensive. And I also think it continues to reinforce the stereotype that the Black community is not educated on policies and politics. And I think that's really offensive and wrong. To assume that if you just put up an image, if you just say a phrase that, voters are going to get scared and they're going to, vote your way. Whereas on the Yes campaign, we are really taking the time to explain. I've done so many town halls and meetings to explain in context why we believe it is important to vote yes on this referendum, why we believe that if we do not step up to MAGA Republicans, they're going to continue to be detrimental, not only to Virginians, but to Americans nationwide. And I think simply sending out a flyer with imagery from a painful past in American history is offensive, to think that you're just going to bully or scare people into voting your way. And that's not how we do things, and that's not how things should be done at all.
Well, before I go to Candace, I'm telling you right now, I know what I would be doing. I would actually be putting my own mailer out saying, hey, Black Virginians, MAGA wants to defund Black America. Hey, Black Virginians, the reason 300,000 Black women lost their jobs in 2025 because of Donald Trump policies. I would sit here and say, hey, Black Virginians, when it came to Black people having sewage backed up in their lawns in Loudoun County, Trump killed that because of DEI. How about that HOA lawsuit that should have been filed where they discriminated against Black people in Dallas? Trump pulled that. Of course, the $1 billion that went supposed to go on to Harris County after the hurricane, the HUD was going to sue, the Biden HUD was going to sue them for that. Cancer Alley in Louisiana. And so I'll be honest, I know exactly the mailer that I would be sending to Black Virginians if I'm y'all campaign, and that would be, if you don't want to see MAGA destroy Black economic rights, Black civil rights, Black education rights, then you should vote yes. But that's just me. Candace.
It sounds like you're about to run for office.
No, I ain't run. No. That's a pay cut. I can't do that.
I'm wondering, what are you hearing on the ground from voters that we may not be hearing because the media isn't covering it, or because we're just getting mixed messaging? What are you hearing from voters or anybody that we just may not understand and you'd like to maybe clear up?
Yeah, I think the important thing that I want voters to know, first of all, here in Virginia, we're in a great era where we have extraordinary Black leadership. So it's really important for voters, to also know that. And it's also important for voters to know that there is a unity among the Democratic the Democratic delegation at large. So both senators support, yes, this measure. The governor is supporting this measure. The lieutenant governor, the attorney general, leadership leadership in both the Senate and the House in Virginia are supporting this measure. So I do want voters to know that Democratic leadership in Virginia are on one accord and understand that voting yes on this measure is about our political power in ensuring that voters are deciding their future and making sure that they are electing people who actually can make a difference in their day-to-day lives. And that is the key. The issues that Roland mentioned are exactly what we talk about. This is not about politics as usual. This is about issues that are affecting everyday Virginians, and we keep that at the forefront.
All right. Early voting is happening right now. Is it 7 days a week, 6 days a week? What's the early voting in Virginia?
Early voting is happening right now in Virginia. You can early vote from now until April 18th, and then the election date is April 21st. If you need to know where your early voting location is, go to iwillvote.com, and it will tell you, put your address, and it will tell you exactly where you can early vote right now. And I just want to say thank you for having me, but I urge Virginians, vote yes on this referendum. Vote yes to level the playing field. We cannot bring a stick to a knife fight. Vote yes for fair and free elections, and vote yes to stop MAGA Republicans from continuing this poor policy that we see going on in our nation.
All right, Cam, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Again, to a panel, again, for me, again, I would be, look, I believe in you. I believe you hit somebody in the face. And I would also make it perfectly clear that if Democrats take control of the House, you're going to have 15 to 20 African-Americans who will be chairing committees, who will be in charge. That's, to me, that's also critical messaging. Because, see, when we talk about black power, and see, and this is where these people out here, Michael, all these simple Simons who say, are you trying to get us to vote Democrat? Fools, this is real simple. There are 4 black Republicans in the House. 4. Because they all ran for office, there will be 0 black Republicans in November, in January, unless somebody wins this fall. You've got a hell of a lot more on the Democratic side. So the reality is, if Democrats are in charge in the House, black members have the gavel. They chair the committees. They control the money. And so that messaging has to be explained to people as well. To me, listen, save democracy means nothing to me because I just don't think for the regular person that resonates. But I'll say this here. I will send a flyer out. Do you want to see 10 black caucus members, a chair of House committees? Vote yes.
Yeah, I would connect the vote to the policy and the benefit of the policy. $17 billion for HBCU.
Right, but that's black power. But that only happens if Bobby Scott is the chair.
Yeah,
I agree. So connect the benefit of the policy to the vote, and then putting African Americans in a position of chairs of various committees. Connect the two.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't operate on that sophisticated level, Roland. Okay,
but actually, that ain't even sophisticated. That's basic. Cody, no. I'm serious. Cody, they complicate this. This ain't complicated. I believe Joe Madison, God rest his soul, always said, you got to put it where the goats can get it. I'm going to make it simple.
I agree.
You vote yes 10-1, Bobby Scott is the chair of the Education Committee. Benny Thompson chairs the Department of Homeland Security. You don't like what's happening with ICE? What then happens if Benny Thompson is the chair of the Oversight Committee? I'm going to make it plain, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, that was the question that I was trying to ask. I may have not done a good job at asking the question, but I essentially was wanting to know what were they doing to combat these mailers that were sent out? How was the messaging going to be received or sent out to the groups of people who did receive these mailers? Because I agree with the guest. Black people are politically inclined. We understand and know what is going on in this country. We understand and know our history. But a lot of times it's the messaging. How can we be reached? That's why I do the work that I do. I am trying to inform people and reach people in a way that traditional news outlets do not. So, you asked the question that I essentially wanted to know too, Roland. How are they going to combat this so that it's effective when the voting starts?
Candace, I'm real simple. Donald Trump hates Black America. Black Virginia, send him a signal and vote yes. I'm
and
good.
As you said, yeah. And as you said, you get the people in power to actually make the decisions. And when we talk about the power structure, people understand the Supreme Court, right? And that power, once they make that decision, it becomes the law of the land. They understand maybe the FTC, the FCC, they also make rules and regulations. The executive orders, right? We know that's also where we get laws, and we have state laws. It's just as important that you make the right vote so that all the people that you talked about who are sitting on those committees, they also make laws. They also push things through and also make sure that you get what you want when you go to the polls and have somebody representing you properly. It's another way to get laws passed that you want to see happen, and they have the power.
Absolutely. That's how I would do it. All right, y'all, real quick. Let's go to Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
Well, Roland, the White House is contemplating ending funding for a longstanding civil rights election program designed to protect the voting rights of minority populations. This federal observer program, authorized under the Voting Rights Act, has been in place since 1966. The program, managed by the Office of Personnel Management, or OPM, in collaboration with the Justice Department, sends neutral third-party observers to monitor polling places. Their role is to ensure that voters do not face discrimination at the polls due to race, language, barriers, or disabilities. Observers are recruited and trained by the OPM. They're expected to observe, listen, and take notes without interfering in the voting process. Afterwards, they submit their findings to the Justice Department Civil Rights Division. It's a crucial year for midterm elections, and the White House is considering cutting funding for the program, which has seen costs increase from about $2.2 million to $2.5 million. In Washington state, a disabled Black Navy veteran testifies in the Seattle court against a white man who shot him over a stolen valor. Harold Powell, a 68-year-old disabled Navy veteran, testified in King County Superior Court about the harrowing July 2025 shooting on Seattle's waterfront. Powell, who has performed music there for 30 years, says he felt violated and thought he was at death's door when 33-year-old Gregory Tim, a white man, accused him of stolen valor. Powell's wheelchair was marked with Navy memorabilia, indicating his status as a veteran. When Tim walked up to Powell and calls him a fake veteran before ripping a Navy patch from his wheelchair, Powell drew a knife in self-defense, but Tim then backed up from Powell and shot him in the chest from 15 feet. Powell survived, with the bullet cracking his rib but sparing vital organs. Videos show Powell never aimed a gun at Tim, despite the defense team saying Powell escalated the confrontation. Now Tim is charged with first-degree assault and third-degree theft. Virginia State Senator and former NFL safety Aaron Rouse is suing the National Football League, claiming he was wrongly denied disability benefits related to injuries that he sustained during his playing career. He played 3 seasons in the league, states that doctors have determined that he is totally impaired due to multiple concussions incurred on the field. According to a lawsuit filed in federal court in Norfolk, Rouse first applied for benefits back in 2021, but the NFL's Disability Board denied his claim and rejected his appeal the following year. Rouse argues that the process is flawed, noting that the board is responsible for deciding disability claims, and it has a built-in conflict of interest because half of its members are appointed by NFL teams that help fund the program. So this lawsuit comes at a time when the NFL is facing increasing scrutiny regarding its handling of disability claims from former players. The city of Indianapolis will pay $3.75 million to the family of Herman Whitfield III. That's a Black man who died in police custody during a mental health crisis. The Whitfield family, filed a lawsuit against the city and 6 Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department officers. Whitfield, 39 years old, died April 25, 2022, after experiencing a mental health crisis at home. His mom called 911 to request an ambulance, but instead, officers used a taser and restrained him face down. Whitfield repeatedly said, "I can't breathe," before he died in the hospital. The coroner ruled the death as a homicide. In December of 2023, 2 officers involved in the incident were acquitted of all criminal charges, but the family continued to pursue civil action. When the city does not admit any wrongdoing, the Whitfield family expressed relief that the matter has now been resolved. The family of a black man who was fatally shot during a homecoming event that happened at Lincoln University of Pennsylvania filed a lawsuit against the institution. The lawsuit alleges that the historically black university failed to maintain adequate security and did not respond promptly to warnings of potential violence. 22-year-old Juan Yeffers was killed and 6 others were injured during the homecoming festivities on October 25th on the university's campus. According to the complaint, the university was aware of safety concerns before the event, but they did not implement sufficient security measures. Officials from Lower Oxford Township had previously warned the university about crowd control and parking issues that hindered emergency medical services from responding to emergencies. During a public meeting, township officials also offered assistance to address these concerns, but the university declined their help. The lawsuit claims that Jeffers' death could have been prevented with better safety planning. The family is now seeking punitive damages and aims to hold the university accountable while advocating for improved campus safety. Federal prosecutors and defense attorneys are currently presenting their cases in Miami during the trial related to the assassination of Haiti's president, Jovenel Moïse. 4 men are accused of conspiring in South Florida to kidnap or kill Moïse, a plot that prosecutors claim was motivated by greed and ambition. During the opening statements, Assistant U.S. Attorney Sean McLaughlin told jurors that the motive was straightforward: to seize power and make money. However, defense attorneys countered this argument, asserting that the investigation from Haiti was fundamentally flawed and claiming that their clients were being used as scapegoats in what they describe as an internal coup. Moïse's assassination in 2021 plunged Haiti deeper into chaos, exacerbating the instability as armed gangs tightened their grip on that country. Roland.
Well, let me thank my panel. Thank you so very much, Cody, Dee, Candace, and Michael for being on today's show. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Y'all, we've talked about the dangers of white Christian nationalism, and Reverend Jim Wallace has really been out front on this. I talked to him about his book, now in paperback, called The False White Gospel: Rejecting Christian Nationalism, Reclaiming True Faith, and Refounding Democracy. It is a conversation you do not want to miss. Check it out. Jim, the timing of us sitting down could not be more perfect. You have the grossly unqualified Secretary of Defense, Peter Hegseth, who invites a white nationalist, a white Christian nationalist, someone who calls themselves a paleo-Confederate, person who doesn't believe that women should be able to vote, has said some despicable things about slavery, and on, to actually come and pray and preach at the Pentagon. And I'm very clear that what the present-day GOP is and what MAGA is an absolutely right-wing, Christian nationalist, white supremacist, loving political party. And that is driving the public discourse and the public policy in America today.
It is always good to see you, my brother, and to hear your voice, which is more important than ever at this time. You're absolutely right. This is nothing less than a false white gospel that's driving this tyranny. And so the good news is that a number of church leaders are beginning to speak up, stand up, and act. We had this prayer service at the White House yesterday with a number of Black church leaders, Hispanic church leaders, evangelical mainline denominations right there at the White House. And we administered ashes right there at the White House. And we turned to the White House and said, we are asking you to repent of your sins against immigrants, against people of color. And repentance, on our foreheads, we had that cross. And it was very powerful indeed. Thomas Bowen, the new head of Progressive Baptist Convention, was there. Bishop Vashti McKenzie was there. And then we had a big service last night for 1,000 people around the country. So this new call to Christians in a crisis of faith and democracy has just gone out all over the place, and we're getting a lot of excitement. I was hoping 100 top national faith leaders would sign. 400 have signed, and now thousands more are signing. So the bad news is they're doing exactly what you're saying. It's this white Christian nationalism should be named for what it is theologically. It's a heresy. It's a hypocrisy. I call it a false white gospel. And so we're coming back to that with indeed what it means to come back to the teaching of Jesus. And as you know, my brother, every renewal revival movement in the history of the church has always featured coming back to the teachings of Jesus. So that's what we're going to do starting in this Lenten season.
And see, when you say the teachings of Jesus, I mean, and this is what these folks are doing. They keep saying, we want to return America to being a Christian nation. No, not a Christian nation.
Right.
They wanted to be a right-wing, hardcore, conservative, white Christian nation.
That's right.
They have zero respect for other religions. They have zero respect for Black Christians
right.
who are not right-wingers.
Right.
They've got zero respect for white Christians who don't buy into the right-wing ideology. And so they want to prostitute Christianity, and it is ideologically driven and not biblically driven.
Well, just to underscore that, white evangelicals are very different, as you know, than Black evangelicals. And white Christianity, in those phrases, white Christianity or white evangelical, the operative word is not evangelical or Christianity. The operative word is white. This is a gospel of whiteness. And so it's a heresy. It's an idolatry. It's to speak theologically, this is an idolatry. So that's why our presence at the White House yesterday was so powerful for me and for all of us who were there, because we're saying what you're trying to lift up here, that this is something that is for us theological, about the sovereignty of God. We worship God and God alone, not Caesar. And the word of God is Jesus, as you know. And that teaching, I lifted up at the White House, Jesus' last teaching before he went into Jerusalem, from Matthew 25. And he explains very clearly, as you've done to the hungry and the thirsty, the naked, the prisoner, the sick, and to the stranger. The word in that text, Matthew 25, for stranger literally means immigrant or refugee. As you've done to the stranger, you've done to me. So when President Trump attacks the hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the stranger, the sick, the imprisoned, he's attacking Christ himself. Jesus saying in that text, it was me you're attacking. So Matthew 25, I'm hoping for a Matthew 25 movement growing all over the country as people step up and go to detention centers and are present with, in solidarity with, in support of immigrants being attacked. And so this could be an opportunity, this false white gospel, to come back to the true and genuine gospel. And that's what a lot of us are working for.
But I think in order for that to happen, we've got to have courageous faith leaders who are not right-wing.
That's right.
And let me be perfectly clear. I am not saying that every conservative preacher is a right-wing ideologue.
Right.
There are individuals who are conservative, who vote Republican, who that's who they are, but they still preach the gospel. The problem is when you have these ideologically driven individuals who are ideologically driven first and Bible second. And in the case, I played a video, I think it was out of North Carolina, white preacher just going off on that Bible of Trump and Lee Greenwood. He said, don't you ever buy a Bible with the Constitution in it. He said those two documents should not be in it. I mean, he went off on that whole deal, and he was right. You know, and what these people are doing. When I saw them, you know, in terms of how they tried to deify Charlie Kirk as this huge man of Christian faith, Charlie Kirk was talking about an ideologically driven view of white Christian nationalism.
Yeah. It's really, you put it well, it's ideology over theology. They're putting their ideology first, their political right-wing ideology first. And it's a theology, it's an ideology of American first, also whiteness first. It's what I call it a false white gospel. And so we have to come back at that, not just politically, but theologically. And so this call that we released just yesterday, call to Christians in this crisis of, it's a crisis of democracy, to be sure, and you speak eloquently about that. It's also a test of faith, And so this is a time to attack that ideological gospel, that America first gospel, that whiteness first gospel, with the genuine gospel of Jesus Christ, who tells us how we treat the most vulnerable, which right now is, in fact, immigrants and people of color across the board. I'm talking to people in Springfield, Ohio, and they're stopping any black person, whether they're Haitian or not. They're after the Haitians, but all black people are fearing being stopped. And so this is a false white gospel. So we have a chance here to correct the situation, but only if we do what you say, if we stand up with courage and take the risk that we're going to have to take. Leadership means courage. It means standing up, speaking up, and being willing to take risks. And I think, let me just be bold here, I've never said this in public before, but faith leaders have got to be willing to put a target on our backs, to speak the words of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, and put a target on our backs. Because a lot of people in the country, Roland, don't maybe identify so much with Harvard or big law firms or elite universities. But when they come after clergy, if they come after clergy, they come after some of us, I think a lot of people can say, wait a minute, why are they coming after the clergy? But we have to give them something to come after. So courage and risk-taking is going to be central here. And we saw that yesterday at the White House, and you're going to see it all during Lent and all through Holy Week. You're going to see more and more actions based liturgically, not just politically, to speak the truth. Jesus said, you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So the opposite of lies the opposite of truth isn't just lies, it's captivity. So we've got a captive white Christian group. They're captive to the lies and ideology of Donald Trump. Well, we have to know the truth, and the truth will set us free. You're a journalist, and your vocation's truth-telling. I think, Roland, that's a vocation for clergy as well, in their pulpits, truth-telling. So truth-telling will be how we stand up and show our courage.
To that point, when you look at these ICE raids,
yes,
I'm gonna tell you right now who really has been doing what you just said, put a target on their backs. Catholic priests.
Yes.
They have been going to hearings. They have been saying, I dare you to snatch them out of our hands.
Yes.
And in fact, I remember seeing a video of one Catholic priest saying to fellow Catholic priests, we must be prepared to die for this cause.
Yes.
Pope Leo has been extremely vocal. And I love the fact that the right wing The right wing loves the Catholic Church's position on abortion, but they hate their position on the death penalty and on undocumented workers.
Well, Cardinal Bernardin of Chicago, who is a dear friend of mine, he talked about a consistent ethic of life, just like you're mentioning. It wasn't just abortion; it was the death penalty. It was poverty. It was violence. He talked about a consistent ethic of life as a seamless garment. I love that, a seamless garment, tying it all together. So in Chicago, you see Cardinal Kupich and Catholics standing up and having services and going to the streets. So to see Catholics doing this is a great encouragement to me. And Black churches, Otis Moss III signed our statement, and so many others were there yesterday. And so if we see the Black churches and Catholics and some new generation of evangelicals who are rejecting the white evangelicalism and all these mainline denominations, Terry Howard Owens, who's a Black woman, but the general minister of the Disciples of Christ, predominantly white mainline church, she put on the ashes yesterday and she put them on my forehead, and she was there, and it's a powerful witness to see people coming together across our boundaries to say no to what this administration is doing and say yes to what Jesus tells us.
You say in the book, the elephant in the room, you say in nearly every political conversation, in every debate in Washington, hardly anyone acknowledges the one thing we all know when it will inevitably come to pass. Not taxes and death. You said, as I said earlier in this book, by 2040, America will no longer be a majority white nation. We are approaching the day when America might become the world's first true multiracial democracy, and certainly there are those who perceive this as a great threat. That's literally the basis of my book, White Fear, how the drowning of America is making white folks lose their minds. And I fundamentally believe, and Reverend, it was in 2009, I was at CNN, I was waiting to go on the air with John Avlon, and I said to John, John, we're living in the beginning stages of white minority resentment.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? I said, Jim, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I said, no. I said white minority resistance.
Yes.
I said, Jim, I said, John, I'm telling you what's going on. And when I look at these ideologically driven right-wing white Christians, that's what they're fighting. They despise the great replacement theory, the attacks on DEI, the attacks on critical race theory, the attacks on woke. What they want a white America. Charlie Kirk attacking the 1964 Civil Rights Act, attacking Dr. King. Then you've got this Black dude, call himself a historian, sitting with that idiot Jason Whitlock, trying to say, oh, we're going to deconstruct, and oh, Dr. King was just an absolute communist, and all sort of stuff. What they want to do is they want, and they really see Donald Trump is their white God. He is their white, small g God.
Right.
And they respond that way, including a sprinkle of Black folks, Latinos, and others.
Yeah. Well, see, what you just said is the heart of the problem. It's not really just immigration they're worried about. It's this I'll put it in one sentence. Their strategy is this. They want to prevent our changing demography from changing our democracy. Let me say it again. They want to prevent our changing demography, which you just point out, by 2040, we're no longer a white majority nation. We're a majority of minorities, They want to prevent that from happening. They want to prevent our changing demography from changing our democracy. That's at the heart of all this. It isn't about just issues like immigration. They want to change They want to prevent democracy from being changed. So that's where I think what's happening around the country, they're trying to stop, is such a threat to them. It's such a threat. And so this is, we've been having this battle for, as you know, my brother, for a long, long time. And there are still white people out there, and it's Trump's base, who don't want to see changes in democracy come about from our changing demography. And that's the heart of it. So I'm glad you raised that, because that's the moral and spiritual and political heart of Trump's policies.
In fact, I'm sitting here. So this guy, Doug Wilson, who Pete Hegseth brought to the Pentagon to pray.
Yeah.
This is what this man actually has said. The radical abolitionists maintained that slave owning was inherently immoral under any circumstance.
Right.
But in this matter, the Christians who owned slaves in the South were on firm scriptural ground. May a Christian own slaves even when this makes him a part of a larger pagan system, which is not fully scriptural or perhaps not scriptural at all, provided he owns them in conformity to Christ's laws governing such situations. The Bible is clear that under such conditions, Christians may own slaves. He also writes, on the slavery issue, the drums of war were being beaten by the abolitionists,
right,
who were in turn driven by a zealous hatred of the word. To the extent that slavery was an issue, the radical abolitionists were in conflict with the teaching of the New Testament. Last one here. When the Confederate States of America surrendered at Appomattox, the last nation of the older order failed. So, because historians like to have set dates on which to hang their hats, we may say the first Christendom died there in 1865. The American South was the last nation of the first Christendom. This is the guy who Peter Hegseth invited. He calls himself a Paleo-Confederate to pray at the Pentagon. Now, here's why I find this to be such a joke. John Brown was a God-fearing, Jesus-loving, Bible theologian. John Brown was hardcore Christian.
Yes, he was.
Look at his language here.
Yeah.
Radical abolitionist.
Yeah.
Zealot behavior. So he is trying to define that white Christians who despise slavery, who despise the heinous nature of slavery, he's trying to say they were the evil ones, and not those committing a crime against humanity.
So Pete Hegseth is bringing that history back to right now, and I'm so glad you raised that history, because we can go to Frederick Douglass, who talked about the contrasting of the church bell and the auction block, often at the same places, church bell and the auction block. And Frederick Douglass distinguished radically between the Christianity of Jesus and the Christianity of slave-holding white religion. He made that very clear. James Baldwin did the same thing. And so right now, they're bringing that history all back. And so,
and not just Frederick Douglass, because you write, the American churches, of course, were divided over slavery in the Civil War, and white Southern churches tried to use the Bible to justify slavery. But the vanguard of the abolitionist movement was Christian, led by the likes of Frederick Douglass, William Lloyd Garrison, Harriet Tubman, Lydia Maria Child, Thaddeus Stevens, Sojourner Truth, and evangelical revivalists like Charles Finney and the Grimke sisters. These were Christians who said, this is not of God.
Well, let's do Charles Finney for a minute. Charles Finney was the leading evangelist in this country for a long time. And I love his altar calls. You and I know what an altar call is, calling people up to commit to Jesus Christ. And literally, Finney was an evangelist, deeply evangelical. and a radical abolitionist, to use your language, at the same time. And he literally, on the stage, he called people to come to Jesus and to commit to abolishing slavery at the same moment. Their conversion was connected to following Jesus and rejecting slavery. So you came to Christ and you committed to abolishing slavery on the stage in the altar call. I love, and you know, he was a white evangelical back in those days, and he made that deep connection. So how do we make that connection today? Like that list of heroes that I describe in the book that you just read. Those are our ancestors, our heroes, our mentors. How do we do that today in practical terms, which will cost us, and we'll have to take some risk?
I'm gonna go back to the movie Malcolm X in the book.
Yeah.
Malcolm X is going, I don't know, Yale, Harvard, Columbia, one of the Ivy League schools. White woman comes up to him and she says, Mr. X, I support what you're doing. How can I help with your people? And in the movie, he says, nothing. And he walks away. In the book, he writes, some say, was it Alex Haley writing? But we'll put it aside. He writes, I wish I would have told her, I don't need your help with my people.
Yes.
I need you to go back to your people and speak to them, teach them, mobilize, and organize. And I have long said, and I said in my book, White Fear, that what has to happen are for conscious white Christians to be willing to speak from pulpits, in living rooms, in country clubs, to their white brothers and sisters, to their white family members, their mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles and children, to their white co-workers, and challenge them on their ideologically driven white right Christian nationalism, because I said it can't all be the work of Black folks.
Absolutely.
We can't do all of the lifting.
Well, Malcolm X was often called Detroit Red, from my hometown of Detroit. And on my wall in my office, I have this wonderful picture of Malcolm and Martin when they were getting together when he came back from Mecca. And it was really the North and the South that was possible there. And I think that's why they both were killed. But indeed, this is the task for white Christians to speak to other white Christians. In fact, I would say we have to commit to defeating white Christians in their false gospel. We have to speak to them. My Georgetown students, very diverse classes, but the white students there often wrestling with their family conversations, their friendship conversations. It's got to be white Christians speaking to other white Christians, white people speaking to other white people. And there's got to be really, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, as you know so well, was deeply influenced when he went to Union Seminary because he got involved in Abyssinian Baptist Church. And so the Black worship of Abyssinian, the Black preaching, the Black music shaped him when he went back to form with Karl Barth, the Confessing Church in Germany. And that church was deeply shaped. Reggie Williams, a wonderful scholar about this, has this book called Bonhoeffer's Black Jesus, where he talks about the influence of the Black church on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. So that's
you told me to get it.
Yeah, you got it. There you go.
And I interviewed him.
Good. Well, he says it well, and he was at our retreat, our faith leaders retreat, and he and I have been talking about this call, this confession, since last summer, and now it's come to fruition with all these faith leaders signing it. There needs to be a dissent, a real breaking away from white Christians. And you could call Bonhoeffer divisive because he called German Christians away from what was then German Christianity, which was following the Third Reich, was even saluting the Fuhrer in their worship services. And so it's time for white Christians to speak to other white Christians, speak and persuade, but also to stand up against them. And I would say to defeat them politically. I don't mean by violence, but defeat them politically. White Christians have to defeat white Christian nationalists politically. We need to fight their influence and defeat them politically. And so I think it's time for white Christians to stand up to other white Christians. And as you say, in our pulpits, in our Bible study groups, and in the streets, in our community meetings and forums. I always love it when young people can walk past a church and say, well, I don't agree. I don't even know all they believe in their doctrines, or I don't know that I believe everything they believe in there. But that's where we have our meetings, our town meetings on guns, on voting rights, on immigration. So wouldn't it be wonderful to see churches being town meeting places where the community gathers? And there will be, if people stand up in their pulpits and preach, some people will leave. Guarantee. Some people will leave, but others who never dreamed of coming to a faith community, others will come if they see faithful resistance. And so at the White House, we turned to the White House and said, our repentance comes with a promise of resistance. If you do not repent of your sins against immigrants and people of color, if you do not, we will offer you faithful resistance. Repentance and resistance must be now tied together.
That's what Pastor Cody Deese did in Georgia.
Yeah.
And he talked about how that membership dwindled and how they were rebuilding this church. I had him on the show. And he's been speaking truth. And I love the fact after he came on, was a whole lot of new faces. He says a lot of new faces. I think I might credit this to Roland Martin, the folks who want to come check out his church. He's been one of the folks who said, I was on that side.
Yeah.
I was on Frank Schaefer talks about that. He's like, I know about that system. I know how that thing was built and created and what their whole thing was. As you were talking, I was looking at, and you had this passage in here where you talked about watching Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver, who's also a pastor, meet with a group of gang leaders to gain their trust. And it reminded me of a story a pastor told me. He was in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. And this black preacher, he was against abortion. And so the white clergy came to him and said that they wanted him to participate in their March for Life against abortion. And he said, not a problem, but I need y'all to do something for me. He said, I need y'all to stand with me and pray in front of crack houses.
Absolutely.
In order to pull that demon spirit out. The white preacher said, well, Pastor, that's your problem.
Right.
He said, no, wait a minute. Y'all want me to march with you in a pro-life march. So are you telling me those lives in the crack house are not worthy of your presence?
Yeah.
And that right there, that example speaks to the ideologically driven white right-wing Christian notion of Jesus. What they have decided is they've decided that to be pro-life really means to be anti-abortion. I have never seen one of these white right-wing evangelicals standing with a black mother or father whose son or daughter has been killed by cops.
Never.
I never see these white right-wing evangelicals standing up for prenatal care.
Yeah.
I never see any of that. And so I'm sitting there going, so when you say you're pro-life, as I always say, are you pro-life from the womb to the tomb?
Yep.
Or just in the womb?
Right. Well, let's be clear that right-wing evangelical movement is not pro-life. It's not pro-life. They say they are, but they're not. They're selective about the lives they choose to defend. And they're never defending people of color. Black pastors have often had to met with police chiefs and, as you say, in cities around the country. And if some of those white pastors about police brutality toward Black young people in the youth groups of Black churches, if some of those white pastors were with them, with a police chief, to be pro-life, it would make a difference, but they're not there. They're not there. So I want to say that right-wing evangelical religious right is not pro-life. To say we're pro-life for them is a lie. It's a lie. And it's time to tell the truth about what it means for all of life to be sacred. You and I have to listen to all the political noise all around us. Part of our jobs is to listen to the noise and then offer perspective on it, which you do so wonderfully. But sometimes, I don't know about you, but the noise sometimes really makes me weary, gets me down. And so I go to the first book in the Bible, the first chapter of the first book, Genesis 1:26. With all the noise swirling around, it says, then God says, and I love that, like, shut up, be quiet. Then God says, and what God says is, let us make humankind, all of us, in our own image and after our own likeness. There's an Imago Dei movement growing around the country underneath the immigration movement, underneath every movement for human rights and civil rights. Underneath that is this idea that we're all made in the image of God, all of us made in the image of God. And so that image of God movement is so much stronger than the selective morality of the far right religious right. So I think,
but the selective morality also applies to the left. You talk about in your book, newly elected president, Texas Governor George W. Bush, invites you to Austin, Texas, and he says to you, Jim, I don't understand poverty. I've never really known poor people or been around much poverty.
Right.
I'm just a white Republican guy who doesn't get it. Help me understand. And you began to work with the White House. You attend meetings, and you said that you got criticism on the left. You said, but faith in poverty and what it might mean to love our neighbors were being raised up. You pulled out of those meetings when he invaded Iraq.
Yeah.
But then you also said that you supported, and I've said to people, I dare say the greatest accomplishment of the 8 years of President George W. Bush was his PEPFAR plan.
Absolutely.
Which dealt with HIV/AIDS. And guess what? This so-called Christian administration, this so-called administration has gutted that program, and the same ideologically driven white right-wing Christian evangelicals have said nothing what Trump has done to PEPFAR and how that is decimating and killing people, which shows they're not pro-life. But I want you to speak to the point of you can be left, you can be progressive, but you can say, I'm willing to work with a Republican president, Republican governor, Republican mayor on this issue, but you had to first see George W. Bush's heart before you said yes.
Yeah. I think we've got to not go left, not go right, but go deeper. What does it mean to go deeper? When he came up to me in that meeting, there was a genuineness, humility. There was a, I don't understand this. Help me understand this. And so, he said, how do I understand? I said, well, you've got to listen, be with people who are poor. He said, I don't have any poor people in my life except servants. I said, no, well, you've got to listen to people who are poor and those who work with people who are poor. And he was listening to that. And that's why I kept meeting with him and the others in the White House until they invaded Iraq. But it was genuine. It was genuine. So how do we now reach out to people? And some of them, this statement we've done doesn't judge people on their political philosophies or even how they voted last time. But now it's got to be what we're going to do right now. And I think life is on the line, choosing life. What will we choose this day? And I think there's an opportunity here. You will be maybe struck as I was by one of my students in the class who said, Professor, what's that quote about the guy that said, first they came for other people and then they came for me? And it was Martin Niemöller from the 1930s who was in the German church. And he said, first they came for the trade unionists, but I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't speak up. Then they came for the socialists, but I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't speak up. Then they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't speak up. And then when they came for me, there was no one left to speak up. I asked my students, this is contemporary Georgetown students, how many had heard that quote? And half the class raised their hand. So that wonderful quote poem by Martin Niemöller is coming back to us now. How do we stand up and make sure that we're not remaining silent? So I think, when they destroy, you gave terrible examples of PEPFAR, but when they destroyed USAID, that just killed people, starved people. I had a friend who was at one of those clinics in sub-Saharan Africa, a development worker, when this decision was made to slash and cut USAID, and pregnant women with babies were thanking him for all the support they got from USAID, and he knew that was about to end and their babies were going to die. And so slashing USAID is not just a Doge thing or a political thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a violation of the gospel. And the more we speak like that, I think the better.
One of the things that I get all the time when I travel around the country and that I hear, it's always, I want to do something, but I have no idea where to start.
Yeah.
What do you say to the white preacher, the white congregant? What do you say to anybody, Latino, Asian American, whoever, who's like, okay, I don't like what I'm seeing, but I don't know where to start? What do you tell them?
Well, that's the big question. Dr. King's last book really says it well. The title of it is Where Do We Go From Here? That's so contemporary right now. And so I said yesterday at this White House vigil that when things come on the media, the latest dangerous thing that Trump has done or suggested or promised, things come out in the media, we don't see Republicans standing up in the Congress. I often don't see Democrats being courageous enough and standing up. The executive branch is taking over. Congress is forfeiting its role. And the courts, the lower courts, are really trying to do some good work and are doing some good work. But the Supreme Court, time and time again, has supported Donald Trump. So that leaves it on civil society, all of us. King had the year of the White House. We don't have the year of the White House and the Congress and the courts. But in civil society, that's all of us, the rest of us, including faith communities. So No matter what they do, I said at the White House, no matter what they do over there, we have the choice to act on our faith in little ways, small ways, and in controversial ways. No one can prevent us from acting on our faith. And that's why Lent is so important for the launching of this statement, which I'm sure you'll share with your all your listeners. How could Lent be a reflection time? We're fasting and praying. And I think if we respond with our faith in the places where we can, in those conversations, in those pulpits, in those Bibles, in those small groups, in our communities. The new King's March, I think, is the day before Palm Sunday. What if we all carried palms that we're going to have for Palm Sunday to the King's March? That the presence of faith communities is crucial in the streets. So we can respond, no matter what they do. I see something rolling in the media, and probably like you, I say, how can I stop that, or how can I change that? And I don't always know if I can change that, and sometimes I can't. But on my wall are all these heroes of faith of mine. There's Malcolm and Martin and Steve Biko and Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. My chair at Georgetown is named, it's the Archbishop Desmond Tutu Chair of Faith and Justice, Dorothy Day is here, Thomas Merton. And all the people on my wall, they weren't political winners. Jesus wasn't a political winner. And yet they were faithful. They were faithful. We can't always win. We can't predict or control events, but we can be faithful. The heroes on my wall, my family tree over there that I'm looking at now, tells me that I've got to be faithful. So all of us can say, what does it mean for me in my positionality, where I am? Everybody who's listening here is an influencer, everyone. Whether you're influencing Congress or the Senate or the House, that doesn't matter. You are an influencer in ways that, places where you have influence, where people listen to your families, your kids, your friends, your neighborhood, your church, your congregation, your mosque, your synagogue. And so how can we, each of us, say, what does it mean for me to act on my faith right now, and make that very direct and very practical and even risky?
You said earlier we have to put a target on our backs.
Yeah.
I also often remind people that you cannot claim to love and follow Jesus, but you move in fear.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that you do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And willingly put yourself in danger. But what it also means is that you have to be willing to stand up for something, to fight for something. And it also doesn't mean you say, well, I go to church, and you know what, Pastor Watt, I'll pray. I love when people say, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I love when people tell me, brother, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your strength in your show. And I go, I appreciate that. But I also explain to folk, I can't do my show if we broke.
Yeah.
I need people to support the work.
Yeah.
I have to pay people. When we travel and covering stories, that stuff costs. It's not a money grab. It's also being real. So I'm always trying to tell folk that we all can serve in different ways, but what we have to be willing to invest something in order to change something. And it's not just paying lip service or just saying, hey, I'm standing with you. I'm standing with you, brother. I'm standing with you. And I'm going, yeah, but a lot of times when somebody says I'm standing with you, when I actually need them to stand with me, they're not around. So sometimes when you're a freedom fighter, when you're a Jesus-loving Christian freedom fighter, sometimes it's a lonely fight.
It is. It is. You raised the fear factor. I'm so glad you did. The Bible talks about the fear factor. Don't be afraid. Be not afraid. Hundreds of times in Scripture, hundreds of times. And Nelson Mandela taught us it's not a matter of not feeling fear. Of course we feel fear. Fear is real. Fear is upon us. It's about acting in the midst of feeling fear. So be not afraid. I hear Jesus saying that to us all the time. And so the fear factor is what tyrants, authoritarians use. They're using the fear factor. So we've got to confront the fear directly. As you're talking about, we have to do that. And I think we can overcome fear not by not feeling it, but by acting in the midst of fear. We saw that in South Africa. I learned my theology of hope, really, in South Africa. Desmond Tutu was I was blessed to have him be a mentor and tutor for so many years. And he taught me that hope is deeper than a mood or a feeling, that optimism is not strong enough. Optimism is a mood or a feeling that you have sometimes and others and not other times. But that hope is deeper. Hope is not a feeling or a mood. It's a choice, a decision we make because of this thing that we call faith. Hebrews says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And my best paraphrase of that is this: hope means believing in spite of the evidence and then watching the evidence change.
Two more, then we're done. One, when you talk about availing yourself, I'll never forget 2008, the sermons of Reverend Jeremiah Wright are being dissected, torn apart, destruction happening. And I'll say that experience, I'm on CNN, it was one of 3 times in my life where I literally was completely exhausted. And I remember I'm in Chicago, I'm living in Chicago. I'm making appearances on shows. I'm doing my radio show. I call somebody, I'd say it on the air. Can somebody please bring me a copy of the full sermons?
Yes.
I didn't want to, I said, I'm tired of these snippets. And luckily some people did. And I'm listening to them. And I never forget, I was laying on the couch and I was completely spent. It was pressure. It was intense. I go to the bathroom and I'm just like, and so you called and you said, I'm watching you fight. I'm watching you take on all these people by yourself. And let the producers know if they need somebody else to speak, I'll do it because I see it's just you. And I was grateful for that call because, I'm talking about, I was exhausted. I couldn't even roll off the couch, much less stand up. And that's the thing. There are times when you are going to be in a spiritual battle and it's actually spiritual warfare. And man, you are hoping somebody's watching, listening, and they call to say, yo, do you need a break? And that's the thing that we also have to. So I appreciate you doing that. And I think people need to understand we have to do that. We can't just let folks stand alone and fight battles all by themselves.
Well, we're human, right? We're all human. And I know that feeling of laying on the couch and feeling exhausted. And we're all going to get to that place. We can't, because we're human, resistance needs resilience. Underneath our resistance is our resilience. And so we have to take care of each other. We have to be with each other. We have to stand, not just stand up for each other, but stand alongside each other. Because when we feel alone, that's perhaps the most exhausting thing. But we're not alone. I remember I went on one of those Fox News shows about Jeremiah Wright and one of the idiots who had attacked him. I said, you're an anchor for a big network, right? He said, yes. I said, well, shouldn't you have read the whole speech? You didn't read the speech, you just caricatured it. And he got all mad at me. But we can confront, you confront so powerfully. And yet we're going to, we're going to get tired. We're going to get tired in the weeks and months and years ahead. Trump and his people are trying to undermine the midterm elections. That's what they're really going after. Because all the people on the liberal left side, as you know well, say, oh, look, he's going down in the polls. He's going to lose the midterms. I don't think so. Yeah, I think we can defeat him, but he's going to do everything in his power, everything, including violence, including sending ICE troops and military to polling places. We have to protect these elections. Barbara Williams-Skinner and Adam Taylor and I do something called Faiths United to Save Democracy. It's Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and we're training poll chaplains. We trained 1,000 so far. We want to train 5,000 more before the midterm elections, because we're going to have to be present at these polling places, because they're going to try to intimidate people, scare people. I'm hearing about bomb threats. They're going to try to do bomb threats targeted at Black and Hispanic polling places or Democratic polling places, and drones flying overhead. Imagine you're waiting in line to vote and there's drones flying overhead. They want to intimidate. So we're going to have to stand up and know that we're not alone. And so laying on the couch, those moments that you have and I have, laying on the couch feeling exhausted, that's when we know. Let me put it this way. Peggy Flanagan, who's a lieutenant governor running for Senate now in Minnesota, I'm her adopted dad. She's part of my family. They vacation with us. She's indigenous, highest ranking indigenous woman at a state level in the country, now running for the Senate. We were talking the other day, and she said, when I go to Mass, she's deeply Catholic. When I go to Mass on the weekend, what I realize is that it's not all on my shoulders. It's not all on my shoulders. Now, Peggy and you and I are people who sometimes feel like it's all on our shoulders. She said, no, it's on God's shoulders. Mine, it's on God's shoulders. What's on my shoulders is to be faithful to God. And a lot of us, Roland, right now, are trying to be faithful to God. And we're doing that together. So laying on the couch sometimes, it's important for me to realize no matter how much I'm doing, it's not all on my shoulders. It's on God's shoulders, and we are not, you on the couch, me on the couch, we are not alone.
Last point, I asked this of every author. During your research, doing your writings, what was there a wow moment? Was there something you remembered, something you researched that even caused you to go, wow, that is unbelievable, that is crazy?
Yeah, I think it was looking back and researching and reflecting on the Good Samaritan text. So I'm thinking now, after a lot of reflection on this, that the Good Samaritan text may be our gateway, our path to a multiracial democracy. Because, the story, it starts with this lawyer who asked Jesus trick questions. So what do I do to inherit eternal life? What do I do? Jesus, I think you read the law. He says, yeah, you love God and love your neighbor. He says, that's right. Go do it. But then he says, yeah, but exactly who is my neighbor? So my research, Roland, has taught me this was a Washington lawyer in the text, because I know that tone of voice. Not who is my neighbor? How can I walk with? But really, who do I have an obligation to? So then he tells the story of this man beaten by the side of the road, left for half dead. And it was a Jewish man. All the scholars say it was a Jewish man. And two of his Jewish leaders passed him by. They didn't pay attention. They were off to a meeting or something, or afraid to get close or take the risk. But this Samaritan, and in the text, it never says good, because Jesus' audience to whom he was speaking didn't believe there were any good Samaritans, just bad ones, dangerous ones, false worshipers, mixed race. And yet the Samaritan, it says, had pity on him, which means compassion. And he stopped, and he went over to him, and he took his time. He risked, maybe they're in the bushes still, these robbers. He took his time, his energy, inconvenienced himself. And then he began to bind up this man's wounds and put him on his donkey and led him to this inn and said, take care of him. And he stayed there for a while, take care of him with the innkeeper. And he said, he gave him 2 denarii. That's about 2 weeks' wages in those days. So it was some money. And he said, and if it costs more, when I come back, I'll take care of you. So here was one who is being othered. The Samaritan was being othered by Jesus' audience. Here's the other, one who's being othered, helping one who is other to him and who is othering him. This is extraordinary. And I've known that story for years, the Good Samaritan story, but it's not about let's all volunteer more. It's about how we get beyond the us and them, how we get beyond the othering. And that story to me is so contemporary, so urgent now, as Dr. King would say, the fierce urgency of now. The Good Samaritan story may be a pathway to our finally achieving multiracial democracy.
Folks, the book is called The False White Gospel: Rejecting Christian Nationalism, Reclaiming True Faith, and Refounding Democracy, by Jim Wallace. The foreword is by Eddie Glaude. Jim, always a pleasure to talk to you. Keep speaking truth. Keep standing on that wall. And as I always say, as long as there's breath in my body, I'm going to keep kicking butt.
Well, and when we're both on the couch, we know that the other one's paying attention.
There you go. I appreciate it, sir. Thanks a lot.
Bless you.
Do me a favor, and please, if you want to support us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. It's also for credit cards. So use that QR code as well. Checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart, not Xbox One, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to, of course, get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com for all of our stuff. And, of course, support the Black-owned companies that we have in our marketplace at shopblackstarnetwork.com. So please check all of that out by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Don't forget, download the app Fanbase. Let's support Fanbase as well. Folks, that's it. We always end the show on Fridays. Thanking everybody who's donated to our show. 37,179 donors. Let's get to 40,000, folks. Let's do so. If you want your name on that list, then you know how to donate. I'll see y'all on Monday right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Holla!